In this video, we'll be covering functions in Python. Functions are an essential part of computer science that let us run certain bits of code at certain times. Functions make our code cleaner, and they're really useful. For example, if you wanted to make a game and you wanted to have a player jump when the spacebar is pressed, you could create a function that makes the player jump and then assign it to the spacebar input. Using functions is a great idea, and it'll really make your code better. With all of that being said, let's just dive straight in and let's cover how you can create and use functions in Python. The first thing we'll do is we'll actually create a function. And you can create a function by using the def keyword. This def keyword tells Python that we are making a function. After the def keyword, you need to put your name. And the name of the function doesn't really matter, it can be whatever you want, but for now, let's call it first function, since it's the first function. After that, you have to put these parentheses, and I'll get into those later, but just put them for now, we can ignore them. And then you have to put a colon. This is just Python syntax for when you create a function. After you put your colon and you hit enter, you've successfully created your empty function. Now inside of this function, you can do whatever you want, but for now, let's just make a print statement. So let's say print, this is being shown through a function. So now we have our function completed. We don't have to add anything to this. So if we run it right now, we're actually not going to get any output. And the reason for this is because we never actually ran the function. If you want to run your function, you have to call it. And calling it just means running it. I don't know exactly why it's called calling it, but I guess that's just the terminology. You'll get pretty used to it, but just remember, when we run our function, we are saying that we are calling it. So to call your function, it's really simple. You can just say the name of your function followed by those parentheses. Now after we write this code and we hit run again, we will get some output and it will say this is being shown through a function. If you want to pass any kind of input through your function, then you can do that with parameters. Parameters are just little pieces of information that get passed through a function and that the function can use in whatever way it wants. So here what I've done is I've created a new function called printName, and I've passed in two parameters. The first parameter is first name, and the second parameter is last name. And inside of the function, we are just printing name, and then we are printing the first name and the last name. I hope this example demonstrates how these parameters work. We're just passing in some input, and we are using that inside of our function. Now let's actually call the function and pass in our first name and our last name. So let's say print name, and then we put in the parentheses, and this is what the parentheses are used for. They are just used for these parameters. So inside of these parentheses, we pass in the two parameters in order. So we have to pass in the first name first and the last name second. So the first name will be something like, it doesn't really matter, but let's just call it Jeff. So the first name will be Jeff, and the last name will be Bezos. So the name is your favorite billionaire, Jeff Bezos. Alright, and now if we run this, we will get name Jeff Bezos. And the thing about parameters is that they're customizable. That's the whole point of them. You can customize this input, and you can even set it to some kind of variable. For now, let's just keep it at some string, but we can change the string. So let's say, instead of Jeff Bezos, the much cooler memer billionaire, Elon Musk. So if we change this, as you can see here, we get Elon Musk. Also, we get the output from the previous function because we're still calling it. If you wanted to make these parameters more clear for whoever's reading your code, you can use keyword arguments. So instead of saying Elon Musk like this, what you can do is you can say first name equals Elon and last name equals Musk. So this will return the same output, but it's a little bit more clear what we're doing here. We're saying that the first name is Elon and the last name is Musk. If you don't know how many parameters you're going to get passed through your function, what you can do is you can use the double asterisk symbol like this, and then say kwargs or keyword args. And this name actually doesn't matter, but mostly we say kwargs. It's just pretty standard. Alright, now instead of first name and last name, we can actually look for the data in our kwargs, because kwargs is a dictionary. So if you don't understand, let's just write the code and I'll explain after. So instead of first name, we'll say kwargs, and the index will be the input, which is first name. And then instead of last name, you'll say kwargs index last name. So here, kwargs is a dictionary, and we are accessing the elements in the dictionary. First element we're accessing is the first name, and the second is the last name. So this is useful for when you don't know how many parameters you have. So if you run this, we are not going to get any errors or anything. It's going to return the same output. But now that we used these double asterisks, we can put more parameters in. So we can say age equals 49. Now if we run this again, we don't get any errors. So we can use however many parameters we want. So in these two functions, what we're doing is we're printing something. If you want to return some kind of output instead of printing something every time, you can use the return keyword. So I'll go ahead and make a function and then discuss it after. So as you can see, I've created a new function called addNums. And inside of the function, we are returning num1 plus num2, which are our two parameters. This return keyword just gives us this data back. So if we were to call the function, we can actually assign the function output to a variable. So we can say added num is equal to addNums, and then we pass in our two parameters, and we can do whatever we want, but for now let's do something like 45 and 45. And now we've stored this in a variable. Previously, we wouldn't be able to do that because we're just printing something and we're not returning any kind of output. We would not be able to assign the output to a variable. This can be useful in a lot of cases. Now if you run this, we are not going to get any output for our addNums function because we haven't done anything with the variable. But if we printed out the variable, then as you can see, we are going to get the output, which is 90. And we can do anything with the variable. So we can say print added num times 97. And then we are going to get that, which is 8,730. So I hope you see how useful this is. When you use the return keyword, you can put your function's output in any kind of variable and do whatever you want with it. If you don't want anything to happen on a certain condition, or if you want to have some placeholder code before you write your actual code, you can use the pass keyword. So I'll go ahead and make a function with the pass keyword and demonstrate it afterwards. So here I've made a function called pass keyword, and I've just said pass. Now if you run this, we are not going to get any errors or anything because we use the pass keyword. The pass keyword in Python just tells Python that we should ignore this, we shouldn't do anything. This can be useful when we're still deciding what we want to do, so we use the pass keyword as a placeholder. The reason we don't just leave the function empty is because if we did that, then we would get an error. As you can see here, indentation error is expected in indented block. This is why we have to use the pass keyword as a placeholder. So that was a quick overview of functions in Python. If you liked the video or found it useful, make sure to drop a like to support the channel, and if you didn't like it, dislike it. If you really liked the video and you want to see more tech and programming content like this in the future, make sure to subscribe with notifications on so that you never miss a new video. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, this has been LarTech, signing out. Have a good day.